This is the 19th Tee podcast. Kieran Marsh and Nathan Drudy back with you and with you in the flesh for the very first time, Drewster, in 165 episodes. We flagged something special for the listeners last week, and it is from this point forward, you'll be seeing our faces. Whether that's a good or bad thing remains to be seen.
Yeah, not too sure. Haven't made the decision yet as to whether that's good or bad. But no, it's only taken us 165 episodes to find out that there was a button down the bottom of the Zoom call that says show video, which is nice. So we'll join the ranks of the Joe Rogan project on the YouTubes, and you can catch us there if you like.
We do a little bit more thorough research than Joe, though, only slightly. We did obviously flag that as part of this special episode, we throw a little bit of control over to our loyal listeners, and we've got a bunch of questions to get through at the back end of this episode, but heaps just prior to that. We've had a great announcement today on home soil about a new event named in honour of the GOAT, Kari Webb, which we'll get to that news very shortly. Of course, Viktor Hovland wins again on the PGA Tour. Some fantastic performances out of our Aussies on the Ladies European Tour, and a couple of other results to mention across Men's European Tour, Champions Tour, and a couple of Q schools that we have been keeping an eye on over the last few weeks. So a bit to get through this week, Trudes,
yes,
in honour of our first episodes on the vids. And I think we should raise a toast. Thanks to our great friends at Gage Roads. And, of course, I'm going to bugger this up because I'm doing it for the first time on the camera as I open my sidetrack. Looks like we've gone the same way, my friend. So big thanks to our good friends at Gage Roads, WA's premier craft brewery, named after the strip of ocean between Rottnest and Fremantle. And we should raise, Strudes, in the interests of giving as many bouquets as we do brickbats, we should raise this tin tonight to the PGA of Australia, because a fantastic announcement today in conjunction with the Wpga of a brand new event named after undoubtedly our greatest ever golfer, Kari Webb. Tell us a bit more.
Yeah, absolutely. Hopefully we get a phone call tomorrow, maybe. That'd be nice. And what you're referring to is the inaugural Australian WPGA Championship, which is going to be headlined by Hannah Green, who's confirmed she's coming back and playing. But they're going to be competing for the Kari Webb Cup, which is going to be staged alongside the Australian PGA Championship at Royal Queensland in Brisbane. So there's some key points. There's a full media release on the Golf Australia website, but I'll just read you the key points because it gives you everything you need to know. The inaugural Australian WPGA Championship field will be limited to 24 players and held concurrently with the Australian PGA Championship at Royal Queensland from Jan 13 to 16, 2022. The winner of the WPGA Championship is going to receive the Kari Webb Cup, and they'll also receive $180,000. The 2021 Australian PGA Championship field will consist of 120 male players, with the winner also to receive $180,000. Hannah Green is a confirmed starter, as is Min Woo Lee and Jeff Ogilvy as well. So some great names. As you mentioned, we do give a lot of brickbats, but this is certainly one that, we deserve to give the Aussie PGA a bit of credit here, because this is a great initiative. I think it's long overdue. I do have some questions around the Australian PGA still, as we flagged last week, KM, because I think the narrative, may have been a little bit smoke and mirrors there. But all in all, a wonderful announcement for, I guess, Australian golf, but particularly for our female Australian golfers, which Kari's championed so hard for in recent years, or for the whole of her career, really.
And a big pat on the back, I think. I won't call it innovative, because we've seen it a few times now, not least of which here in Australia at both the Vic Open as well as a few of the Player Series events driven by Jeff Ogilvy last year. But to run a male and female event concurrently, I think is something that golf fans, I'm not going to say just we, but golf fans in general have been screaming out for a long time. Every time we've seen it, whether it's at those previous events, there was a fantastic one last year held over in Sweden, co-hosted by Henrik Stenson and Annika Sorenstam. Every time we've seen it, Drudes, it brings in crowds. It's a great spectacle to have them playing the same course at the same time. So big pat on the back to the Australian PGA and the WPGA for finding some common ground and getting this off the ground. And also, I think, a 56-time winner around the world, it is the very least we can do as a golfing nation to show our thanks and appreciation to someone like Kari Webb to name this after. I did note today that I think she said, because it was launched today at Royal Queensland with Kari there, she launched it, which was excellent to see. And she noted that it was important to her that it was a cup, and by the looks of it, you can pour a full bottle of wine into it. So Kari's on the front foot, which I'd love to see as well.
I agree. I mean, you and I both worked in a sport where the trophy wasn't a cup. And I think when it first started, I think that was the initial concern that we raised was how are we going to drink the celebratory drinks out of this? Now, you or I never had to worry about that.
Didn't get close, my friend. Did not get close. But look, it's a wonderful announcement. It's also fantastic, and I think she deserves a lot of credit, Hannah Green, for committing to this from the outset to get home. I'm sure she won't be the only one in terms of other Australians playing around the world. A couple of names we'll get to very shortly who performed incredibly well on the Ladies European Tour this weekend. But, to have our most recent female major winner be the first name committed is excellent. So I'm sure the event will grow. Obviously, it's a limited field and a select field this first time round. But I have no doubt off the back of what I'm sure will be a success, it will start to gain a bit of momentum in years to come. So it was really positive news this morning after what's been a pretty shit ass couple of months in terms of the road ahead. So credit where it's absolutely due to the PGA. This is something I'm thoroughly looking forward to in my backyard in January, Dreads.
Yeah, 100%. And I think what I was alluding to before is the narrative around the international players are essentially what make the Australian PGA, and we can't run these big events without having international players. So I think from the men's side, I still have concerns that your likes of Cam Smith and your Leashes and all those playing on the PGA Tour, they're probably not going to come back because we've got the Sony Open. It's opposite that, right?
Well, I say this with the absolute greatest respect to a person who, I admire, not just for what he's done in his playing career, but probably more importantly, what he's done post. But when one of your two headliners in the announcement today for the men's PGA is Jeff Ogilvy, that probably speaks to the crux of the problem.
Yeah.
It's great that Min Woo has committed because he's doing some outstanding things, particularly of late around the world, particularly on the European Tour. But when that second name is Jeff Ogilvy, I think it speaks to the crux of the problem.
Yeah, and that's exactly my point. And I think I'm super pumped for this event in 2 years' time, 3 years' time, when we can get Leash and Scotty and those guys who do come back and play those events in December aligned, and then the females are coming back, and you've got the likes of Hannah Green and Steph Kyriakou and Minjee Lee coming back. Like, what a tournament that's going to be! You're going to have literally the best golfers that Australia has produced coming back and playing this tournament from around the world. That's what I'm really excited for. 2022, I'm pumped to see how it goes. I'm just a little nervous still around the quality of the men's field from an international perspective. Super pumped just to have an event locked in. So props to the Australian PGA and the Australian WPGA as well today.
The only other thing I'll say on this, Trudes, is I think the next probably 2 or 3 announcements are also critical around broadcast and sponsorship and how they'll activate the event, because you only get one chance at a first impression, right? And they have to get this event right out the gate, because I think the thing we've brushed over is $180,000 prize purse for the winner of each event is still not great.
No.
And unless that increases significantly, no matter where this event goes in 2, 3, 4 years' time, you're not going to attract larger names to come over from overseas without a bigger purse. And we know the complexities that go with bringing that commercial money in. You need to get the event off to a great start next year. So it's important to get a great broadcast deal in place. It's important to make an attractive event for people to go to here in Queensland. And it's important to make an attractive event for sponsors to get on board with as well. So I'm really keen to see the follow-up announcements of how they'll build out this event to make it a success out the gate.
Well, you'll be there criticising and critiquing.
I'm going to get out in front of this and say I reckon I might struggle to get accreditation. I don't want to say it's a certainty that I won't, but I reckon I might struggle. Yeah, maybe one of our friends who'll be playing the event could swing us a few tickets. But
you could be like a mystery shopper. Like, just be a punter
I certainly don't think I'll have one of the special coloured lanyards. I don't think that'll be happening. Anyhow, it's excellent news, and they do absolutely deserve some
and we're here to help.
For what was. Absolutely. We'll be as willing as anybody else to push this event because we firmly believe in the format. So they've got our number. We know they've got our number because they've called us before. So
and no, and in actual all seriousness, like you've got a great event in the backyard of yourself to be able to get there. Hell, even I can probably fly to Queensland by that time. Who actually knows? But we can help in that respect. So I hope that the offer is taken up, but we shall see in due course. Otherwise, mystery shopper Kieran it is.
Drewster, heading overseas, Viktor Hovland, now a 3-time winner at the age of just 23 on the PGA Tour, having taken home this is a mouthful, Worldwide Technology Championship at Mayakoba, a 4-stroke winner in the end over Carlos Ortiz. Drudes, we've spoken a lot about Viktor Hovland on this podcast. He is a player who not all that long ago I said, despite Colin Morikawa, I think having the obvious highest ceiling, I think Hovland does it on a more consistent basis. And I think what we've seen really in the last 6 to 8 months is that coming to fruition. What he's doing now on a week-to-week basis, he jumps up to number 10 in the world off the back of this win. As I said, the 3rd win by the age of 23 and the first player to defend a PGA Tour title since Brooks Koepka won the PGA Championship in 2019. So goes back and does it again at Mayakoba. He's starting to really build out an impressive resume is Viktor Hovland.
Don't disagree. I think he's a really exciting player to watch as well. And I think that's something that makes him really marketable as well. I mean, there's been heaps of content being pushed out by the PGA Tour today, which is, that's what we like to see, someone a bit charismatic. The clips come out where he's talking about how shit his chipping is and all that sort of stuff. So I think he's a really marketable and really likable guy. And as we've said over and over, just complete polar opposite to Colin Morikawa. Morikawa's that really polished, like prim and proper guy. And Viktor Hovland is the dude that we know he is. But I really am looking forward to him going on and winning a significant tournament now. I mean, like, as we've said many times, you can only beat who's in front of you. And he's played nice golf throughout some of the bigger tournaments. He's finished T2 in a WGC, finished T5, I think, at the Tour Championship as well. So he's certainly playing good golf. I think it's just a matter of him now taking a step and winning one of those significant tournaments. Mayakoba, I mean, as I'm sure you would agree, isn't the most significant tournament on the schedule. So I think that's his next challenge now is how does he step up and win a big one?
I stumbled across a phenomenal stat today. I flagged this with you before we started recording. So Kyle Porter, who is one of my favourite follows in golf Twitter, at Kyle Porter CBS, if you're not already on the train, tweeted this out. Among the top 10 ball strikers in the strokes gained era, Viktor Hovland sits 3rd behind only Rory McIlroy and Tiger Woods. So let me contextualize that a little. The strokes gained era, the mid-2000s. So January 1st, 2004 is when strokes gained first began being measured. And I'm looking at a chart here of 10 names compared against strokes gained putting, approach, off the tee, and total. We're looking at the ball striking, strokes gained ball striking metric here. McIlroy, Woods, Hovland. Phenomenal. Now, funnily enough, Morikawa is the next name. So it gives you a little bit of an insight into what we have said time and time again will be a fascinating battle in the next 10 to 15 years. But his consistency, albeit a smaller volume, obviously, I think we're into only his 3rd or 4th PGA Tour season. And if I look at the rounds counted here, so of that list, McIlroy, 1,164 rounds, Woods, 835 rounds, Hovland, only 495. So a far smaller sample size. But as I said, the consistency is just through the roof for a guy who's only 23.
You can't knock the numbers, right? Like they're really good numbers, regardless of what the sample size is. But no, he's a really exciting golfer to watch and someone that I do like watching and find myself wanting to win consistently. What do you reckon his career earnings are? I've got the number here. without today's win. So you might.
I think today was over 1 million. So
Okay, all right.
Career earnings, 3-time winner. None of them were majors, and 2 of them were Puerto Rico. One of them was Puerto Rico, 2 were Mayakoba. So if he's won over 1 million, he won about the same for Mayakoba last year. I'm going to say around 8 million.
Yeah, you're pretty spot on. It was 7.9 mil before today, so probably around that 9 mil. Mark, pretty good effort from you on that game.
Normally, that's one of the best I've had.
Normally not particularly great.
Shit.
My favourite thing from this tournament, though, 2 favourite things. One, the cave at El Camaleon, outstanding.
Yeah, big fan.
Love that every year. But the trophy, this was this is in my top 3 trophies now. This could nudge out the NTPGA. Sick. So
it wouldn't surprise you to know that you were the first person I thought of when I saw that trophy. So, geez, that'll be right up Drew's alley. You'll love that stuff.
But did you see last year's and this year's? Last year was like this one carved out of stone, and this year's is like all funky with the dots paid on it. It's like when you see those flashback photos of AFL players who are like a rookie and like a twig. Like look at Max Gawn when he got drafted, and look at Max Gawn now, and he's an absolute unit.
Lord Max. Was there anyone else in the field? Because I probably had 2 names that I wanted to briefly mention just before touching on the Aussies. In fact, I might do it the inverse. So the 2 Aussies who played in this event both missed the cut. Matt Jones was one of those. And Lucas Herbert had the full PGA Tour experience, Strudes, winning the previous week and missing the cut just 5 or 6 days later. So the highs of Bermuda to the lows of Mayakoba for poor old Herbie. The one name I primarily wanted to mention was Justin Thomas. Probably the best golf we've seen from him in a long time, but that's only the back half of this tournament. I saw another amazing stat. He made something like 16 or 17 shots in 41 holes. It was a stretch of about 41 holes where he went from like 3 or 4 over to 13 or 14 under in this tournament. And we've spoken about the opposite end. Like he goes on tilt maybe more than any other golfer, but it goes both ways. Like he's the definition of the Jesse Mendoza that we've spoken about. When things are going badly, he gets right out over his skis and finds it hard to control. But going the other way, when he goes on a hot streak, it might be hotter than most players on the tour.
Well, he opened the tournament with a number of birdies. Well, I mean, opened the tournament in his back 9. I mean, started, I think he was +3 through his first 3 and then had 6 birdies on the back 9. So, like you say, does get hot. But, I mean, you look at, this is sort of my question, and I don't want to take anything away from Viktor Hovland here, is like Justin Thomas should be winning that tournament. Like when you look at it based on pure skill level, like JT is clearly the most skilled golfer in that field. Like no one, I'm scrolling through and no names are really jumping out. I mean, you got no John Rahm there to really compete with. I mean, yeah, I don't know. A T3, an outright third. I mean, I know he had rounds of 65 and 64 in there, but it seems a little disappointing in a way, even though it was one of his better performances. I don't know. That's really hard for me to describe, but I think you know what I'm talking about.
No, I do. It's not quite the roller coaster that is watching his best mate Jordan Spieth, but it can get close at times because he can be such a frustrating player to watch, given you know how good he is. The only other name I wanted to mention here, Drew, was Matthew Wolff, who finished in a tie for 5th, ultimately 7 shots back behind Viktor Hovland. But Matthew Wolff has popped up in the top 10, top 5 a couple of times in the last few weeks, and it's really good to see him back playing the golf that we know he's capable of. He started the tournament with a 10 under on Thursday, so was seeing them like watermelons to use a cricket parlance in the opening round. Then goes -3, +3, -6. So again, the consistency, which has probably always been the problem, is closing the gap between his best and worst golf. But geez, he's a special player when he's on, and that 10 under first round certainly proves that.
And 600 today, bogey free on a Sunday. I mean, that's nothing to laugh at as well. So, no, good to see him playing some consistent golf, albeit with maybe a little outlier in there with that 3 over on Saturday. But good to see him rising up 12 spots today, Sunday.
Any other names at Mayakoba jump out at you before we move on, Drews?
No, nothing really jumping out at me from what is not a particularly interesting tournament all in all. Sorry, Victor.
We're still in that stretch where we're almost coming out of it, but we kind of flagged this a few weeks back. When you come out of the post Ryder Cup haze and you're into what is known as the fall run in the PGA Tour, it's a tough grind. I really struggled to get interested.
What do you think? Like, I was thinking about this before. Like, we could have one of those great debate type setups, but like, I genuinely wouldn't be fussed if they called after the Tour Championship, called it until January. Like, there's so many tournaments, right? And I get that this is a great opportunity for guys to come out and be first-time winners, your Lucas Herberts of the world, etc. But like, geez, it's a lot of golf. Like, it's hard to keep up. Like, it's 52 weeks a year, essentially.
And I'm very conscious that I sound like a complete hypocrite after last week talking about trying to take a more, I suppose, circumspect view of these tournaments and the opportunity that it provides to some people. But the sport has no off-season. There is no off-season in the PGA Tour. And
which is weird.
That's unique. Like, even, the Premier League, the NBA, they have short pre-seasons, but they have a break. Like, the wraparound season is odd in many respects. And I wouldn't be opposed to a break at all. I think it would probably be best for both the players and probably the viewers. Scarcity brings a bit of demand, Drew.
Yeah, exactly.
Having a bit of a break, the heart wants what the heart can't have, and you have that little bit of a break and you get back into it. But it is at its core a members tour, and I doubt that the players want any less opportunities to earn money, status, points in the FedEx Cup, whatever the single most important thing is to them. So I think we're a little ways off.
It's a good debate.
Off season. It is. I mean, we could maybe park for a later time because I want to get over to the European Tour, which obviously wasn't played in Europe. One of the great ironies, this one, Drew, it's the Saudi Ladies International. Obviously a big proponent of women's rights over there in Saudi Arabia. They are, Drews. So much so that none of the women playing this week were allowed to wear skirts, if that is their option. You had to wear pants. It's just phenomenal. Anyway, we won't get bogged down into the politics because it was a win for the continually resurgent Lydia Ko of New Zealand. But from a home perspective, a fantastic performance by two great friends of this podcast, Whitney Hillier in a tie for 5th and Steph Kyriakou in a tie for 9th. Two Aussies doing outstandingly well on the Ladies European Tour, Drews.
Yeah, phenomenal. Really, really good. Consistent 4 days, particularly from Whitney, 70, 69, 70, 67. Steph was, a little bit more up and down and kind of flew home over the weekend, 73, 72, 68, 65. Steph was really impressive today, had an eagle on number 9 as well. So two really, really good performances, as you mentioned, but not enough to get anywhere near Lydia Ko. I mean, she was pretty clinical. 5-shot victory, takes home 129,000 over a Thetical. I mean, so 5-shot wins, pretty clinical over there in Saudi, because that's not a particularly easy course either by the looks of it. Like, the setup of it, is challenging. There's plenty of water around, plenty of places you can get yourself in trouble. So great performances from Whitney, Steph, and Lydia as well.
I'm really I'm thrilled for Steph, and in the context of her season as well. So a result like that maintains a high placing. She's sitting 3rd now in the race to Costa del Sol, which is a season-long points race. Nobody will be catching, I wouldn't have thought, a Thetical at this point, who's a mile out in front. But Steph, a high finish in that is great for the context of her year next year and the way it sets up in the next few years going forward. But just thrilled for someone like Whitney, who hasn't had the plaudits of Steph and probably hasn't had the headlines, and really grinds. Like, we know full well how hard Whitney works, and Whitney grinds across the world, and it's just great to see that hard work pay off. And she took a significant jump today in that race to Costa del Sol. I'm just scrolling now. I think she jumped up into the 40s. Yeah, 44 she now sits, which was a good jump for her. So, yeah, awesome to see both those players do well. And, obviously, for ourselves, we're a little bit biased because we've got a good relationship with both of them. But, yeah, it's always nice to root for people you want to see do well and be successful.
Absolutely, Cam. Well said. Just a very quick message here from our good friends at The Golf Collective, one of our newest partners. The Golf Collective is Australia's leading online social golf club, allowing members to easily get handicapped for any social round at any golf course in Australia. It's $110 to get a fully managed Golf Australia handicap when you use the promo code 19th THTEE. Just visit thegolfcollective.co/19th to sign up. They flick us a little bit of money. That's how sponsorship work. Everyone stays happy, and you get to keep hearing these wonderful takes that we know you all love. So go and check out our good friends at the Golf Collective. Staying in Europe?
Yeah, I think we should. Over to the men's European tour. Tommy Peters, Trista, back on the dais.
Yes. Wow. I mean, a little unexpected from Tommy Peters. I mean, I do enjoy watching him. I guess if you look at his form, I don't know, maybe I'm being a bit harsh on him. Had a T16 at Mallorca and then a T9 back at the Dutch Open a little while back. But October wasn't the prettiest of months. T39 at the Alfred Dunhill and T68 in Andalusia, but gets the chockies over in Portugal by 2 shots over 3 players as well. So, good result for Tommy Peters, because he's a guy that I genuinely like as well. I think, he was sort of one of the leading waves of Belgian golfers was Tom Peters. And he's been to Australia before. I think he's played down here a few times. I'm pretty sure he's played even over here in Perth. So shout out also to Minwoo Lee, finishing in 8th alongside Dick Bland, who just continues to just be uber consistent, and Adrian now as well. So 3 good people finishing in 8th. KM?
Question without notice, Drudes, just because we gave the context on the race to Costa del Sol. What's the race to Dubai? Looking for, there's a lot of races, which is interesting in a sport of golf, where there's really no need to run at all, to be fair. What's doing with the race to Dubai? Because I'd imagine Minwoo's looking, without obviously being in the lead, he's probably looking in a decent position at this point.
Who is in the lead? Who do you think?
Would it be P. Reid?
Nah, this is Morikawa. Obviously,
of course, because the Open.
Open.
Then stupid.
So Morikawa, Horschel, Rahm, Hatton, Fitzpatrick, Minwoo Lee, Paul Casey, Dick Bland, Abe Ansah, Zalatoris. So, yeah.
Patrick Reed, no one in the top. I've given him way too much credit for his previous form on the European Tour.
Yeah, well, he was up there last year.
That's exactly right. So, that's something that's good for Minwoo, and not surprising at all for Colin, who I doubt will travel to Europe again this year. So
stupid.
Oh, yeah. I mean, obviously we over-index on the all-important Open Championship, but also, you'd like to see regularity and consistency of appearance on the tour also be rewarded.
Also, is it the irony not lost on anyone else that this is a race to Dubai on the European Tour?
Well, follow the money, Drewster. The money talks, and I imagine they are pumping a fair bit into the tour for the right to have all roads lead to Dubai for the end of the year.
Still very odd.
They do love going many, many other places other than Europe to the European Tour.
They do indeed.
They are the world tour, if nothing else.
Well, careful.
Easy. Speaking of the world, and speaking of maybe laying claim to things other than your own, we've probably got to get out ahead of something, Dress, I think, from a little earlier today. We're not the first to do this. There's precedent, particularly in this country. Examples like Russell Crowe, Crowded House, Lamingtons. We laid claim here at the 19th tee to Steve Olca, who was a winner on the Champions Tour this week, who's in fact a Kiwi, not an Australian.
No, I was thinking of an excuse of how we could do it, that we pushed the wrong button, but no, we did it everywhere. Yeah, look, I mean, we like to claim Kiwis as our own, don't we? Far Lap, one of the greats. But no, what a good win for Steve Olca. I mean, some handy names following him after him: Miguel Angel Jimenez, Jim Furyk, and Ernie Els, if you don't mind, coming just behind, and KJ Choice. So holding off some good competition for a 2-shot win at the TimberTech Championship down at Boca Raton in Florida.
Clearly a universally respected player in this part of the world, though, Drews, because the amount of Australians in the golfing scene that I saw tweeting or posting about Steve Olca's win, it would lead me to believe that maybe he could have been an Aussie. So lots of love for Steve Olca in the Australian golf fraternity today. And also a big thanks, we must say, to good friend of the podcast and previous guest, Tommy Hewson, from Hitting Into the Light, who a Kiwi himself politely pointed out to us our mistake earlier today. So if you haven't listened to that episode, the chat with Tommy Hewson, one of my favourites we've ever done. So make sure you go back and find that in the archives. Just finally, Drew, on results, the Asia Pacific Amateur Championship was played during the course of the last week, ironically also in Dubai, at the Dubai Creek Golf and Yacht Club, including a number of Australians in the field who we'll get to in a moment. But it was won in a playoff by the world number one amateur, Japan's Keita Nakajima, who joins countrymen Hideki Matsuyama and Takumi Kanaya as previous winners of this tournament as well. So particularly from Matsuyama's perspective, some heavy footsteps he's following in there, and massive raps on Takumi Kanaya as well in the next few years coming out of Japan. But a win in the playoff for Keita Nakajima, Drewster.
Yeah, he's going to be a superstar, I think, KM. I mean, I haven't really seen a great deal of him play, but reading all the stuff coming out of this win, he's got all the makings of being a future major winner and following in Hideki's footsteps with absolute ease. I mean, a beautiful swing too. There was some.
Was just about to say.
It's on Twitter somewhere, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, funnily enough, I was going to be a little bit cheeky and say that I actually watched a video. I think it was on Twitter. We might be talking about the same one, which is kind of just a repeat of his swing. And I was actually going to call that my short shot of the week, because I could watch that time and time again. And something tells me that whilst I'm sure Keita Nakajima could absolutely benefit from a short shot, pin series laser, that he probably puts it pretty close anyway with that swing. It's very pretty to watch.
It is. Your Sure Shot of the week. We'll insert their little read here, presented by the brand new Sure Shot Pinlock 6000 series of laser rangefinders. Fastest optics yet, enhanced battery life, improved case, and an internal magnet. The Sure Shot Pinlock 6000 series of laser rangefinders will help you know the distance and play the best shot to get you on the green. I know a few people who have put them in the bag recently as well, which is great to see. As far as the Aussies, KM,
yes, a couple in the field.
Loughty.
Yeah, I was looking at this earlier. Could be Laughty or Loughty. I'm going to say Laughty.
Okay.
I'm going to say Laughty, but we apologise to Andre and any of his family or friends who might be listening. If we've butchered that, please feel free to reach out and correct us. Many people do, so don't be afraid. He was the highest placed Aussie at T7, 4 shots behind the eventual playoff. And then a list of names here. Connor McKinney in a tie for 18th. Hayden Barron, good friend of the podcast, in a tie for 21st out of Western Australia. Lucas Michelle, not just a good friend of this podcast, a previous co-host on a few occasions. Held the first round lead, Drewster, did Lucas Michelle. Of course, a previous winner of the US Mid-Am. He ended up in a tie for 26th. In a tie for 28th was Hayden Hopewell, also out of WA, Drewster.
Yep.
And then moving down, Lachlan Barker was in a tie for 31. And then I'm just looking through. I think
that's our 5.
Missed the cut. Yeah, no, we all made the weekend, which is good to see as well.
Yeah. Shout out to Hayden Hopewell. 3 eagles during the week as well, if you don't mind. So including a fantastic, I'm pretty sure someone had a hole out. I can't remember if it was Hayden Hopewell or if it was Connor McKinney. It might have been Connor McKinney, actually, who had a hole out from range, which was great to see. So Eagles are plenty. Would have loved to see Lucas go on with it, but unfortunately not to be. A poor finish to 17 and 18 on the second round sort of hurt his chances there, and then not a particularly great round by Lucas's standard in round 3. But congratulations to Keita Nakajima.
Also, a big shout out, and I'm sure you'll drop the official read somewhere else in the podcast reads, but a big shout out to good friend Hayden Barron, who I saw post from Dubai. He had the Puma Alpha Cats on the feet this weekend, which having just received mine leading into playing 36 holes across Friday, Saturday on the weekend, I can say I don't know that I could have got through them without the Alpha Cats. They are comfortably the best golf shoe I've ever worn. Phenomenal. So if you haven't seen or at least tried on a pair of the Alpha Cats yet, make sure you drop into your good and bad local golf stores, because I'm sure our mate 40 from Cobra Puma has got them everywhere. Yes, so the Alpha Cats are a great shoe.
He definitely will. I've got to get mine. I haven't got my arsenal gear and actually gone and flicked him the email as to me sizing as yet. But
that sounds very unlike you, chasing up the tester pair from 40. That's unbelievable. I can't believe you haven't got onto it, Troots.
No, I know. Bit lazy of me. A few things happening. Let's go to Corn Ferry to a Q School. Last little results. Well, it's not even results yet because it's still going. They're about to tee off in the evening. Zach Fisher is leading at 12 under par. This is the Corn Ferry to a Q School. As I mentioned, he's at 12 under par. 3 shots ahead of Samuel Stevens. The reason we mention this is there are some Australians in the field, headlined by our good friend Justin Warren, who hasn't particularly had the best 3 days of golf, unfortunately, for Woz. He's down T143rd at the moment going into the last round. So not going to secure a full card. Neither is Jason Scrivener. He's at +8 T122, but they will have a level of status, which will get them some starts on the Corn Ferry Tour. So that is good that Woz has got at least a little bit of security, as does Jason Scrivener as well. So we wish them the very best heading into the final round, and hopefully they can string a few birdies together and jump up the leaderboard a little bit.
And it will be the same, Drudster, I believe, for Blake Windred, who was chasing a result on the European Challenge Tour in Mallorca, Spain over the weekend. I think he needed a top 3 in that tournament to secure his full European Tour card for next year. Wasn't to be, but I believe he'll have conditional status across the year. And if I know anything out of blokes like Blake and particularly Wazza, given a chance, I'm sure they'll make the most of it next year. So look forward to tracking those names and seeing those careers continue to flourish, because they're two of the hardest working guys in Australian golf and great friends and great guests on this podcast previously. One name I did want to mention very briefly that I did see did get full European Tour status, which is excellent news for golf fans the world round, and that's Marcel Siem. In the top 25, if you remember the hatless ponytail-wearing German from the Open Championship. Yeah, massive fist pumps for pars out there at the Open Championship. He's incredibly entertaining, and we need more of that in professional golf. So Marcel Siem will be a full-time member of the European Tour next year, which is great news for those viewers of the game, Druids.
Yes, love to see it. Good man. Should we take a very quick break to hear from our very good mates at Cobra Puma Golf, the OGs of partners of this golfing podcast, and their brand new King Tech hybrids with advanced technologies that deliver exceptional distance, forgiveness, and control. Man, what 3 more things would you want in your game than distance, forgiveness, particularly for me, and control, particularly for me? Not so worried about distance at the moment. Just get the ball on the fairway, Druids. But these things are absolutely fantastic. It's the only hybrid in Cobra's lineup to feature the Power Shell face design, which are also featured in the latest Rad Speed irons. So make sure that you check out our good mates at Cobra Puma Golf and get your hands on one of the new King Tech hybrids with advanced technologies that deliver exceptional distance, forgiveness, and control. Questions?
Yeah, so just to give this a little bit of context, obviously whilst not a milestone in terms of the number of episodes, 165 was the number we landed on when we spun the roulette wheel of when we turned the video button on, Druids.
Yes.
And in honour of that, we thought we'd hand a little bit of control over to our loyal listeners and see if there's any questions they wanted to ask, golf or non-golf related. And we've got a bunch there. So we're going to try and, I won't say whip through these, because we'll give the ones that deserve, significant consideration and time their due, but we will try and get through them in as swift time as possible in the interests of those listening. So kick us off, Drew. So who we got and what we got?
All right. Before we do some questions, I'm just going to throw an ad read in here for our merchandise.
Please do.
For our merchandise. It's a live ad read. It's sitting
the local shop
right next to me, the pro shop here. We've got the t-shirts, we've got the hats. Put them on your wish list. You can see the hats on both of our heads. Fantastic product. Hit us up on Instagram or Facebook or whatever and get some merchandise heading into Chrissy if you like. First question from Ramdog83. Which one of you will get to scratch first? Now, I have to laugh at this question because I just don't think it's possible for either of us, KM. I'm sorry.
Yeah. I think the suggestion that one of us will is interesting in and of itself, Ramdog. If I had to nominate someone, I'd say comfortably it'll be Druids, just based on comparative volume of golf played. Look, if it's going to be one of us, I'll back Druids to win.
It's not about the volume, it's about the quality. KM.
Yeah.
I mean, you'd think that my handicap should be going the wrong way.
I played 2 rounds of Ambrose golf Friday, Saturday. If I could play Ambrose full time, I'd be a much better golfer.
What did you shoot? What were the scores? How many under par?
Look, they weren't even still that great. They're actually over par. But that's because we didn't have 4 of the greatest players in either of my teams. A couple of handy ones, a couple of not so handy ones. It wasn't a golf trip. It was a Bucks trip, actually. Particularly on Saturday, we had a group of 16 play at Saturday. I should shout out my good mate Dan, who works at Bridgeend Springs Golf Course. We weren't friends prior to last week when I contacted him to see if we could get a group of 16 mid-morning on Saturday at one of the Sunshine Coast premier courses. Incredibly accommodating. So
did you drop
lovely
the
course. I didn't actually. I didn't feel as though it was appropriate. But I will give them, and he might not, probably isn't listening, but Dan at Bridgeend Springs, if you're on the coast with a group of you who'd like to play a really nice course, give Dan a call because he was excellent, and it is a lovely track, Bridgeend Springs. So thoroughly enjoyed that. But yeah, as I said, Druids, if I could, play Ambrose golf, have 1 in every 3 of my shots counted, I'd be a great golfer. Excellent golf, much better golfer than what I currently am.
It is good fun, Ambrose. Sometimes do like playing to my own ball every now and then. Ramdog, will continue with him. When is the first 19th tee golf event? This is probably one that's in the making a little bit. I guess obviously border restrictions, particularly out of Western Australia, are tough at the moment. So that's kind of halted our progress. But we do have some plans to hopefully get something off the ground, maybe in sort of Queensland or New South Wales over on the eastern seaboard. We do have a majority of our listeners from New South Wales. So perhaps there's something there, but I would say it's probably a 2022 piece, KM. We do have some little bit of travel lined up for early 22 with Blitz Golf that we're hoping to get off the ground, but it's all still much of a muchness, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, highlighting the fact that we live in states with 2 of the more radical premiers when it comes to border restrictions, so that does raise some flags, and it is frustrating for our, as you say, a great number of our listeners in New South Wales who just have thrown the borders open with abandon. So we're trying to juggle a few things, but it's definitely something on the cards. Is a 19th tee event. We'd love to bring that community together in some way, shape, or form, whether it's in one or a few different events. So definitely on the back burner.
We'll go Dane Study here. Is your handicap really accurate if you can only play to it on your home course? Because as you know, I'm a weapon on my home sand greens, but terrible on grass. This is always the challenge with handicaps, right?
Yeah.
Is if you're a member at a private course and that's the only course or the course where you play a majority of your golf, you're clearly going to get to know that course better than anyone else, right? So you're going to play better there, clearly. Then you go to a new course. I don't know.
Yeah, it's funny, Drews, because I know there's another question coming later related to handicaps, and I probably empathise with that one a little more than this. Look, I think obviously if you're playing, you're a member and you're playing your course once, 2, 3 times a week even, to your point, you're clearly superior at that course. And it's not even about your game. It's probably more about course management than anything else. And so I think there's always a bit of GST added onto your handicap when you go somewhere else. But yeah, I think we'll come to the philosophical debate around handicaps very soon when we hit another question in this list.
All right. From Golf Lock, this is one. Do beginners and new to the game players even care about handicaps nowadays?
Well, you've gone right there. That's the exact question that I was talking about. I wouldn't even limit it to beginners or newly handicapped players. I'd say that, and to be fair, I don't know if I'd count myself fully amongst the group, but increasingly that number means less and less to me. And whether that's due to a decreasing volume of rounds, and I just appreciate the ability to go out and play in the first place, or whether that's, I don't know, in my mind, your handicap, I'm struggling now to separate that from like Saturday morning competition golf, which might actually be my least favorite version of golf that there is, because this is not everyone, but I'd say there's a significant enough portion of people, members around courses in Australia who believe they're playing at a far higher standard than they actually are. And they all tend to congregate on Saturday mornings, and that makes for an unpleasant experience a lot of the time. And I think it's a big part of the problem that we have in making the game more inclusive is that attitude. And that's so highly driven around your handicap. So I think it's important because I think innately in golf, you need something to work towards. You need a goal. And whether that's lowering your handicap, whether that's breaking par, whether that's breaking 100, it's generally centered around a number. But increasingly so, I'd say, you look at the million odd people who took up the game in the last year. I don't know how important the handicap number is to a great percentage of them, as opposed to just finding love for the game.
Yeah, and I think that's you've nailed it there. It's the reason that you're going to playing is, well, why are you playing golf? Like for me, I want to get better. So a handicap number for me matters. I want to reduce that. But for your average punter who's picked a game up in the last 12 months, they genuinely couldn't care less. And, 9 times out of 10, you play with people your own ability, whether or not you have a physical handicap to compare with each other, that you're roughly around the same. I do it with my mates all the time, but I think a handicap is obviously good when you want to start. You might play for a couple of bucks, or whether you genuinely want to measure yourself against your mates. That's when it's clearly important. But I don't think many people really give a shit about handicaps anymore. As you said, it's that percentage that play on a Saturday morning that want to continue to, I don't know, they just want to get to scratch, I guess. Ultimately, that's why they're playing.
I can't wait for people to get all up in the comments on that, telling us how much they care about their handicaps. Sorry in advance if that's you. Apologies.
To the point is, like, you look at the Golf Collective, right, who are offering such a great deal, $110 using our code to get a handicap. I think if you're wanting to get better, doing it that way, as opposed to joining a club and then going and playing at Mount Lawley every Saturday and playing Mount Lawley over and over and over and over and getting really, really good there. Like, go and pay you $110. It's a fraction of the price to the Golf Collective, and they'll manage your handicap for you, and you get to play different courses and test your game because, like, as you know, if you do anything enough, you become really good at it. And I think ultimately, as to your point, the game is centered around numbers, right? Like, it's very often that you don't go out, or that you go out and you don't score, right? You might go, I'm not going to score today, but you might start with a par and a birdie and you go, oh, shit, I'm scoring today. I'm scoring today, right? So the game is inherently built around scoring. So I don't know.
I also think, and without this wanting to sound like a massive, this is not an addition to the ad read, but to I suppose to back up your point, it's what I love about the disruptive nature of a team like the Golf Collective, because I look at something like that, right, and I think that for people who have been interested in setting a benchmark of like a handicap and working on it, an enormous barrier entry of joining a club in the past. But I also look at it from, look, I'm not in my early 20s, Drudes, but I like to think that I've got so much golf left ahead of me in my life. I'm way too early to be committing to one course. Like, that's part of the beauty. I'd love to go and play different courses, right? And have that experience and understand, well, if I'm going to this region, I've played here before, really enjoyed it, or I'd like to try something different. I've got so many more years of golf ahead of me to be committing to one place every week. It's just not my mindset.
No. Matt Winkley asks, the prevalence of a tour winner missing the cut the week after a win, e.g. Herbie. Discuss.
Yeah, so we briefly flagged this, that the full PGA Tour experience for Lucas Herbert, having won at Bermuda last week and then missing the cut. And I know probably something that our good friend Winks would have been invested in, having worked with Lucas Herbert previously. It's not often that you see it, obviously. No. And whether that's because, I'd say, and look, I'm going to get hosed here because I haven't done any sort of research and I'm plucking a number out of the air, but it's certainly not 100% of winners who back up the next week anyway, right?
No.
So whether that's a miscut the following week, whether it's a miscut in whichever their next event is, it's not often. But also, I think there's probably something in a first-time winner, right? Maybe missing the cut the following week. It would be uncommon for a Justin Thomas, for a person we've just been speaking about, or, others in that category of multiple time winners who've done it before, as opposed to a first time guy who I'm sure Herbie went out and enjoyed himself as he absolutely should have. And, that would have maybe delayed a little bit of travel out of Bermuda into the next event. Maybe, everything gets pushed back a day in the tour schedule. So yeah, I'd say it's probably a little bit more prevalent maybe in first or second time winners than the experienced guys.
Just highlights how hard it is on the PGA Tour, right? Like, to go out and win and then shoot 75, I think he had in the first round, and then 68. Like, it really highlighted to me how difficult it is to win on the PGA Tour.
It's honestly, it's catching lightning in a bottle. And then you take that up another notch when you're talking about winning majors. We talked about how well he played, complete control of his golf ball in incredibly difficult conditions in Bermuda. And he came out in, what would probably be considered far less of a test conditions-wise in Mayakoba. And to your point, it's in the mid-70s. So some days you really don't have it. And it's hard to put a lid on it when that's happening.
Yeah. Mitch Coffey, official, asked, righto, lads, what's in the bag? Do you know off the top of your head, KM, everything that's in there?
Yeah, so I was actually thinking, because I saw this question from Mitch Coffey, official. I'm glad it's the official Mitch Coffey, and we haven't got the fake account. So thanks for the question, Mitch. I do know Druids because I was digging into them a fair bit over the weekend. So I've got I actually toggle at the moment my driver head, because I do have both the Cobra Speed Zone, but also the Rad Speed. And the Rad Speed is the newer model. It's the most recent model out from Cobra. I've actually got the Speed Zone on at the moment, just because I'm finding the middle probably a little bit more with that than I am the Rad Speed, but like to toggle between the two. And then I'm pretty much Speed Zone all the way through. So I'm Speed Zone 3 wood. I've got the hybrid in the bag, the 17-degree hybrid, which has the dual rail technology, Druids, thanks to good friends at Cobra, which means you literally can't hit that club fat. Yeah. Like, it's still, don't get me wrong, it's still going a little bit high and right for me at the moment, but I'm not chunking it. You never chunk that club. That is phenomenal, that rail technology. And then I'm Speed Zone irons 4 to pitch, and then I've got the MIM wedge. I'm at 50, 54, and 60 is me in the matte black, which I know you went the silver, and I genuinely love my matte black wedges.
They just get scuffed up too quick. That's all.
Oh, I'm even getting a little bit of rust, which I'm loving. I love the little rust look. It's fantastic. So
Look after your clubs.
yeah, I actually you'll hate this. I looked at them before going on this trip on the weekend. I thought, shit, I should probably give them a little bit of a scrub. I reckon it's actually probably the first time I can remember cleaning them in a long time, which I know does your head in. And then with the putter, I should mention I've got it's actually a family heirloom. It's one of my most prized possessions. It's a Ping Answer 2. It's like an old school Ping putter, the Ping blade. I am actually a little later this month going out to check out the new Cobra putters, which I'm looking forward to. But that Ping putter's been in the family for a little while, and sensational touch. So that's my bag at present.
Nice. I've got the Rad Speed driver in the bag. I had it lofted up a degree up to, I think it was 12 degrees. So I've now reduced that back down because I was getting a little bit under it. I've got the 3-wood in there, which is in the speed zone, as you mentioned, which is great. Love that club. And I've got a 2-iron in there. I've got a driving iron that I'm attempting to try and hit. Very difficult club to hit in Forge Tech in the King irons there, which is great. So 4 through to wedge with that. And then I'm like you, I've got 54 actually bent to 55 and then a 60.
It's pretty hipster. The old 54 bent to 55.
That's just doing what I was told. And then I got the Scotty Cameron putter in there as well, which I bought last year, which was great. So I'm really enjoying that. Braden, a good friend from Marangaroo Golf Course, sold me the Scotty Cameron. So that's the bag at the moment. I'm sure it'll get an upgrade come January when the new Cobra stuff comes out.
Looking forward to it already.
There's a question.
Good question from Mitch Coffey. Thank you, Mitch.
We have had a few people ask us that one as well, so that's good. I want to finish with Dane M. Study's question that came through today, but from Golf Talk with Luke, who is our next Australian major winner and in what major?
Yeah, so I actually this was a tough one for me because for me personally, I think it's incredibly hard to separate either Cameron Smith or Minjee Lee. I think the way Minjee Lee has been playing of late gives me high reason to hope that she will figure in one of the obviously the women have 5 majors. So which one that is, I'm probably not entirely sure because it depends how she'll set up. Maybe even for this new tournament next year, the Chevron, which is being renamed after the ANA. So potentially maybe the Chevron, depending on where that lands when it goes to Texas. But Minjee's I think a red hot chance to be our next major winner, as is Cam. And I think Cam's comfortably our best male prospect at present. I think guys like Minwoo, who's spoken about, and also Lucas Herbert, they'll begin to push. I think they're still a little bit green, particularly at a major level. You know, like Lucas Herbert qualified for the Masters last week, and he'll be going to Augusta for the first time next year. So that's a stage that they're probably not quite at yet. For Smithy, I think Augusta is his best chance. He sets up so well there, and he also has phenomenal scramble, which I think is important. I also think it probably just maybe other than St Andrews next year. Obviously, the Open Championship goes back to the old course, which he might like, but I think Augusta maybe sets up better than some of the longer courses that are played for the US Open or the PGA.
Jesus, kick me desk. I'm going to say Cam Smith. I mean, the hard thing is you've got 9 shots a year, right, to get this.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, I mean, you've got to be pretty bloody close to get this. Cam Smith next year at the PGA, I actually don't mind him at Southern Hills. I think that probably sets up okay, as does Oak Hill the next year. I agree with you. Augusta is a clear, probably the clear favourite. And then the US Open sites, I mean, you've got the Country Club at Brookline next year and then LA Country Club as well. So there's 2, I think there's very few bad spots for Cam Smith at this point. So, and then Pinehurst in 2024. So I think he for me, I think he's out and out our best chance to win a major. I agree with you around Minjee Lee, most certainly. And she's clearly my pick from the female side of the game. So I don't know. I don't know if it's next year though. I mean, it's so difficult. And we're talking about it before, how difficult it is to win on the PGA Tour. It's immensely difficult to win a major. So whether Cam's
the one thing. Yeah, I think it's the one thing that I probably left out of the conversation around Minjee. I think from a majors perspective, ironically, despite having an additional chance on the women's side, I think it's deeper on the women's side when it comes to majors. You don't get. I kind of feel like when we talk men's majors, we generally talk about the same 10 to 15 guys. It's not, and probably 15's a stretch. Probably the same 10 guys, really.
Yeah.
At a major level, and Cam maybe sits on the fringe of that group. I don't think he's in that conversation regularly enough yet. The women's side's a crapshoot. Like, honestly, it could be any one of 20 to 25 players who wins a women's major. Someone like Paddy Tavatanika to pop up, she's going to end up winning the Rookie of the Year, I would think, over on the LPGA. She's first time appearance at a major and wins. And that's not. That's not outrageous on the LPGA.
No.
It's phenomenally deep to us. So despite having the additional chance, I'd say it's more difficult on the women's just based on the depth of talent.
Last question for the night. I don't know if you've seen this one, when the last time you checked the Instagram was, but non-golfer. So this is from Dane M. Study. Non-golfer. Who's someone you wish you could buy a Gage Roads and have a chat with? I think that's a great question to finish, because we said can be golf or not golf. Questions, and I reckon that's a great question to finish up with.
Okay. Who would I like to buy a Gage Road and sit down and have a beer with?
Well, you pad, I'll
please.
Pad, you think, cracked out the party wave, KM. I went and I couldn't help myself. I had to go buy some. In fact, I actually didn't buy it. My girlfriend or my fiance actually found it at the bottle shop for me. Party wave, beautiful
and
sensational.
Is it guava?
It's a stone fruit sour.
Stone fruit, that's it. I thought
it's exceptional. It's exceptional.
Fancy.
A very, very, very good beer. Probably one of the best sours that I've had. You were just asking about sours the other day as well, KM. So add that to your list.
I was.
Yes.
Thank you. Coming into these warmer months, I do occasionally prefer something with a little bit more fruit in it.
Yes.
Myself, but I do like a sour.
Have you got your answer?
Well, no, I'm hoping you do. So it gives me a little bit more time.
I'm just going to go a really, really easy one to, I guess, basically, I don't know, just he's a guy that I find fascinating that I'd love to do more reading on. And it's probably a bit of a cliched answer, but mine's Barack Obama. I would just love to pick his brain about what it is like to be the most powerful person in the world. And for a guy of his stature and history that went along with his election to be the first Black president of the US, I think the story would be phenomenal. And I'm sure there's plenty of literature out there and I just haven't done my reading, but, I think it would be incredible to actually sit down face to face with him and understand first person what it was like to be the most powerful person in the world during some of the toughest times, I guess, that the world's gone through in financial crisis and finding Osama bin Laden after 9/11 and all of those sort of things. I think would be absolutely phenomenal to talk with. It's a bit of a cliched answer, but Barack Obama's always been the top of my list of people to invite to a dinner party, I guess, and takes my cake for this one as well.
Right. So my answer is going to be, because as you were waxing lyrical about Barack, I probably had 3 or 4 different people jump through my head.
Okay.
But I think my answer is going to be a little bit inside baseball.
Okay.
I'm going to say Simon Goodwin, coach of the Melbourne Demons, premiership winning coach of the Melbourne Demons. and there's probably a couple of reasons here. The obvious is talk me through game by game, quarter by quarter, the 2021 season. But that's a fascinating journey. I mean, handpicked by Paul Roos to be Paul Roos' successor at the Melbourne Football Club, would have seen, still a lot of dark times because he came in for a couple of years under Roosie, and Roosie was really the catalyst for change. He and Peter Jackson, the old CEO, and Glenn Bartlett, the president, to an extent as well. So had a couple of years under Roosie, got the gig himself, flew a little too close to the sun in 2018, and everyone thought, they're the next big thing. And then arse fell out of us the year after. And he actually said a number of times in interviews this year that he noticed in himself he needed to change. Like he was taking on too much. It was taking too much of him. He went out and sought some different mentors. And you can see the difference in him this year. And I think you can also see the absolute universal love and respect that the playing group has for him to a player. And I think he is an incredible leader when it comes to getting them to buy in to what, he has to say. And I also think he loves a beer. I mean, he said in the lead up to the grand final that he took himself off to an undisclosed pub in Perth and sat and had a pot and a Parmigiana and just reflected on the year by himself, which, what a great story. Who doesn't love a pot and a Parmigiana? So I know he'd be up for it. Yeah. Would he? And I think he just has a really good story to tell in terms of the journey of his coaching career to date, and I think just probably more broadly about leadership as well. So Simon Goodwin's my answer. A little bit of inside baseball, Drews. I'm still floating on a little bit of a high there. We still are the reigning premiers last time I checked. So
who else did you have? Who were the other two, out of curiosity?
Matthew Hayden was one.
Yeah. He'd probably make you a fucking mango salad or something.
Haydos is actually heard an interview with him. Not that we make a habit of plugging other podcasts because we love you to listen to ours. He did an interview a little while back on Will Anderson's podcast, Willosophy, which was just incredible. Will Anderson, I think, is a brilliant interviewer, and he's an absolute cricket nuffy. And so obviously wanted to talk a bit about his career, but it went off in a variety of different directions. And Haydos is a very deep thinker, a very philosophical guy. Loves his feet in the sand, loves his life in North Stradbroke Island, but he's also, commentates IPL. He's coaching the Pakistani T20 team. He's obviously got a foot in a few different businesses. And, yeah, I think he'd be a really interesting guy. Again, probably loves a beer as well, Haydos. I imagine he does love a 4X. So
I think there's any probably about it.
Yeah, absolutely. So he was definitely one. And then, look, I think that there's probably a variety of different people. There's a couple of musicians I wouldn't mind sitting down and picking their brains just because creatively I think, they're fascinating as well. And then probably like a little bit left field, but someone like maybe like a Ryan Reynolds or a Vince Vaughn, just because I think you'd sit there and you'd piss yourself for an hour. Yeah. Like someone just make you laugh, have a good time. Yeah. So it doesn't have to all be like serious stuff. Someone tell a few jokes and you just have a bit of a laugh.
It's a good idea. Maybe we do we've gone down a very different rabbit hole here as to what we normally talk about.
There's a few gauge roads we'd be buying there.
I've always thought about like what the spin-off version of this podcast is. Like, not that, we particularly have time to do another podcast, but what's the spin-off of the 19th? So, you've seen the Howie games. He's now interviewing musicians and stuff like that. So I think we just sit here and talk shit for an hour. I think that'd be great. Yeah, well, people would love that.
Some would suggest that we do that for half the episode anyway. So.
We do.
Maybe we have an innate spin-off that we just haven't carved out just yet.
Yeah, maybe.
That's a good question. That's a really good question.
Great question to finish.
Upon reflection, it's one I wish I had seen. I should have checked Instagram earlier because I would have liked to have given it a bit more forethought, but a ripping question.
Come back next week and you can change your answer if you really want to.
Just before we wrap up, Drew, speaking of next week, we pending the success of the video technology, and that's TBC. We'll see what happens when we stop recording this and how it looks. But we are going to pivot a little bit in the format, I think it would be fair to say. I probably actually flagged it all of 2.5 minutes ago when I said people probably already think we took a lot of shit at the back end anyway. What we're going to look to do is turn it into a regular 2 episodes per week. And we're going to carve out the first episode in the week will purely be a results-based conversation around tournaments from the weekend. PGA, LPGA, men's European, ladies European, any amateur stuff going on, any home tour stuff going on, hopefully, fingers crossed, maybe. Any results-based conversations will be the first episode in the week, and then we'll then carve out a second episode, which maybe talks at a few more macro issues. And then obviously all the other stuff we talk about, whether it's fantasy football, American college football, F1.
Up the Bucks,
yeah.
By the way.
I think I saw the stat Texas have had their first 4-game losing streak since the 80s. So things are going fantastically well in Austin. So that's the idea. We're going to carve out the episodes. The idea being that, you might prefer one over the other. Maybe you're not results driven. Maybe you like the philosophical conversations about the game. Maybe you like the inverse. Maybe you might just like the fact that we'll try and keep the episodes a bit punchier, and they'll be kind of 30 to 40 minutes as
I was just going to say
this. 20.
Also, the big selling point here is that we're going to really try and keep them to 30 minutes each. So they're more digestible. I guess 30 minutes probably covers my commute to work plus a little bit maybe. So that's sort of the length that we want to hit, is that commute to work, and hopefully keep people engaged. And I look forward to next week's first episode being an hour and 15 minutes long, and all this going straight out the window.
So look, we're going to trial it. We're going to trial it for a few weeks. We both think it's a good move, and hopefully that's reflected in you. But please feel free to send us feedback, whether it's on the socials, whether it's via the email, whether it's send us a letter. I love getting mail. Apple review would love that little 5-star, 1-star. If you've got bad feedback, we're open to it all. But a couple of 5 stars would help as well. So take it on board, ingest it, let it sink in for a couple of weeks, and let us know what you think about the new format kicking off next week. And again, pending success, this should be a regular thing. We'll be looking at each other. You'll be looking at us. Give us feedback on that. Do I need to have a shave? I am going to work on the background. It's a lot less engaging. Drews has obviously got the hinge up there.
There's Royal Melbourne
before he goes to bed every night. Royal Melbourne's off to the
and then
my
Augusta.
right, your
Augusta.
left, and then Augusta.
Further down.
Can't see. So
Can't see.
Video from now on, unless we get overwhelming feedback to turn it off.
God, that'd be brutal, wouldn't it? Straight up.
Not for us, boys. It'd be best just to stick to the audio. I can't wait.
For radio.
I was just to say $10. First comment will be, geez, you blokes have got heads for radio. Good one. That's never been said before. Goodness me.
Very
All
good.
right, mate. It's been a lot of fun.
It has.
We shall see you twice next week. Looking forward already, Drewster.